What's the difference between a suspension and a revocation? Suspension of your driver's license is a temporary ban on you from driving, usually 30 days, 3 months, 5 months. But once it crosses over into 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, indefinite or permanent, then it's a revocation. In the Pogo Islands, driving at an extreme rate of speed doesn't just lead to a simple suspension. On the Pogosian Navy Island, home to the strictest license suspension and revocation laws for speeding in the Pogo Islands, driving at or greater than 100 miles an hour will result in your license being revoked and your vehicle being forfeited for 1 year. How does that occur, and how is that processed? Well, keep watching and you'll find out. What's up, everybody? It's Zach the Celtics guy here, back with another video, and here with my legal lessons video. Legal lesson, I made a little short that I ended up doing, kind of sort of a short, but you know, so we'll just call this one episode 19. That can be episode 18, this is episode 19. So you may ask, how does a revocation of 1 year and a forfeiture for 1 year occur, you may ask? Well, on the Pogosian Navy Island, what we do is that if we catch someone driving at or greater than 100 miles an hour, which I criminalized in the Kingdom of the Pogo Islands, my country that I created based on the laws and how a country would be based on if it was up to me. One of those being, if you drive at extreme rates of speed and or if you decide to endanger the public with no regard for other people's safety or an innocent human life, then you're going to pay a hefty price. As I always say, I believe in being tough on crime that actually should be crime, and it has a victim. If it has a victim, it should be a crime. If it doesn't have a victim, then just leave it alone. But this does have a victim, because extreme rates of speed is enough to kill an entire family, kills police officers, kills EMTs, puts an unnecessary strain on the police and law enforcement in general, and emergency technicians, firefighters, you name it, that have to respond to these types of accidents because some stupid idiot decided to drive at an extreme rate of speed for no apparent reason. But how does this occur? Well, we'll get into this little procedure here. On the Pogosian Navy Island, under Title XXVI, Chapter 188, Article 2127, Paragraph G, lists out the 1 year mandatory minimum license revocation and 1 year mandatory minimum vehicle forfeiture for driving at or greater than 100 miles per hour. Says that the driver's license of any person caught driving at or greater than a speed of 100 miles an hour is revoked at the roadside, for which it is confiscated and is declared revoked for 1 year, and the vehicle of the operator is forfeited at the roadside for 1 year, unless a longer period of license revocation and vehicle forfeiture is provided under another statute or law provided elsewhere, which would include a longer period of revocation for more serious offenses related to 100 miles an hour or more, such as fleeing the police, street racing or stunt driving, speeding in connection with driving under the influence or while intoxicated, lifelong revocation, or driving revoked or suspended, or any other serious crime in connection with another vehicle. So that means that unless that there is a longer period of revocation provided for a more serious offense in connection with speed that is extreme, then therefore the mandatory minimum is a 1 year revocation, and that takes place right at the roadside. So that would mean that goes into effect immediately, and that remains in effect regardless of what sentence you get. Let me explain that a little more in detail. Navy Island police are required to do this. There's a thing called administrative sanctions or roadside sanctions. that we have implemented, that I have implemented for the Kingdom of the Pogo Islands in most jurisdictions, but this is the Navy Island we're talking about. Once an officer catches somebody, a Navy Island police officer, stops someone driving at or greater than 100 miles an hour, regardless of the speed limit, even if it's a 65 or 70 mile an hour zone. I mean, it wouldn't matter if you're in a 70 zone, you'd still be 30 miles an hour or more above the speed limit, and that's automatically considered driving to endanger in most jurisdictions, including in most of the Pogo Islands as well. So, they stop you, they straight up arrest you. Because recently, we have made any speed of 100 miles an hour or more an arrestable offense. So that means that the operator is arrested automatically on the spot. Just nothing. Unless, in the most exceptional circumstance, if you can prove that there is an actual legitimate emergency for why you were rushing to get someone to the hospital or something like that, yourself or a loved one to the hospital or your friend or something, okay. If you're caught driving at that speed and there's no reason for it, or you have no legitimate reason to do so, and yeah, saying that you're late for work is no defense. So that would be no defense, and I would still arrest you. Officer Zach would arrest you. Yes, I would. And once I do, those sanctions go into effect, which means that if I seize your driver's license, I hereby declare it revoked immediately at the roadside for 1 year, which means I confiscate it and I forward it to the Vehicle Registration Service, which is the Pagosian term for DMV. So in the Pogo Islands, we call it Vehicle Registration Service. Means that once that happens, that license is declared revoked for a year, and it's boom. And then the vehicle gets towed away, and it is taken to an impound lot and is declared forfeited for 1 year. So that means that you will pay all necessary towing and storage fees, $5.99 a month for 12 months, to pay mechanics to keep that, to start it, restart that vehicle every now and again, because obviously they're not going to leave a vehicle in forfeiture for a year just sitting there. It would die within 2 months. I mean, a vehicle battery would die within like 2 months of not turning on. So they have mechanics and everything to start it, restart it, and all that. So that way, when that vehicle does get out of forfeiture eventually, once they reinstate their license after a year, then they can get it back, and they have to pay the court up front, the license reinstatement fee, the $5.99 a month at the flat $50 towing fee, and so forth. So they'd be out about $300 just to get that vehicle out. So that means that from the moment you are arrested on the Navy Island, you're automatically revoked at the roadside for a year, and your vehicle is forfeited for a year. So that means that the only thing that the court does, and you are booked into prison for driving to endanger, fingerprinted and whatnot, and then we'll just release you because you're not going to be a threat. You don't have a vehicle no more because we forfeited it. That's another provision that I think is necessary to do when you suspend or revoke a driver, because just suspending or revoking them is not going to do the job itself. You have to take away the vehicle, take the mechanism away that is going to cause them to drive in the first place. Drive revoked or suspended and whatnot, and if they steal a car or something, well then, if they steal a car and they're driving a car revoked or suspended when they're, in a stolen vehicle, well then, yeah, they're going to probably just extend that revocation for probably an additional 2 to 3 years, and they'll probably never drive again. So, I mean, hey. But that would be on them, and that would be a whole nother topic of discussion altogether. So once that 1 year revocation and 1 year forfeiture goes into effect, it goes into effect, and it stays in effect. So on your court date, 7 days from the day that you are, you're booked and released that night. It's like a book and release. And then you're just like, okay, attend court in 7 days from today. And then, if you don't attend court, a warrant will be issued for your arrest and so on and so forth. So then there's public transit that'll get them to the court. They'll have a taxi service that'll get them to and from court, or their family member, whatever the hell, depending on the person. So then, when they go to court 7 days from that day, the court cannot depart from that 1 year revocation that has been implemented at the roadside. Once the police revoke your driver's license and forfeit your vehicle at the roadside for 1 year for being caught driving 100 miles an hour or more, then, I mean, that's what happens. It stays in effect. It's an administrative sanction that stays in effect in its entirety. There's no limited driving privileges for revoked drivers, because when your license is revoked, it's different than if it's suspended. Suspended is like, oh, it's suspended for 30 days, you'll get it back in 30 days. When it's revoked, it's canceled, it's terminated, it's no longer valid, and you have to surrender that driver's license within 24 hours. Well, that is if your license hasn't been confiscated already. But if it's already confiscated, well then, that's kind of a moot point that was already taken care of. So once that happens, and when you go to court, the court doesn't depart from it. The only time they do is if they find you not guilty. If they find you not guilty, they'll just release your vehicle right back to you. They'll pay compensation to you, whatever. That's if they acquit you. Do you know how low the chances of being acquitted for driving at an extreme rate of speed? I mean, almost never. It's extremely rare. I mean, it's got to be it's extremely rare. At least in my country, based on the stories I've wrote and whatnot. Yeah, the chances of that happening is extremely rare. But you know, hey, well, you know what? Don't drive at such an extreme rate of speed, because doing so is reckless, it's stupid, it's irresponsible, and there's no reason for it. There is no reason that anybody has to be driving at that rate of speed anywhere, anytime. I don't give a shit what the circumstances is. You got to give me a good reason to do it. If you're doing it just for the hell of it because you think you're cool and whatnot, well then I have no sympathy for you. I'm going to throw the book at you, and I'm going to say, fuck you, I'm going to arrest you. Your vehicle's gone for a year, because that vehicle's going in forfeiture for a year. Your license is gone for a year, revoked for a year at the roadside. And the only thing that the court has to do, the judge that you go before, they determine your sentence. So once they determine your sentence, the maximum penalty for driving to endanger, reckless driving, whatever you want to call it, is a $2,000 fine, 18 months in prison. Minimum $400 cannot be suspended. So therefore, you face $400 to $2,000. So it's up to the court to decide. Pogosian dollars, Pogo Islands dollars, PID. So they just determine your sentence. They don't do anything else with that revocation or forfeiture, because they can't do anything, because that's a mandatory administrative provision that courts cannot overturn under any circumstances, except in the extremely rare circumstance that they have acquitted you for whatever reason. That would be it. That would be the only way that they would do it. The only way, the only situation where that would be appropriate. The court can decide to extend it up to 5 years, actually. Did I ever mention that? I probably didn't, but you know what? They can. The minimum's 1 year, the maximum can be up to 5 years. Can be longer. I mean, if it's in connection with another serious offense, like I said, unless a longer period of revocation and forfeiture is provided elsewhere. So when I say elsewhere, I'm talking about under some other law of the Navy Island provided elsewhere. So this is under the Rules of the Road Act 1979, under Article 2127, Chapter 88, Title XXVI. I don't even know what fucking number. What number is XXVI? XXVI number is 26. So Title 26, Article 2127, Chapter 188. So yeah, I'm literally reading this right off my laptop from my Google Docs, where all 16 Pogosian law codes are stored based on my creation. So the only thing that they have to do is determine your sentence. That's it. That's all they have to do. They just determine the sentence, and that's it. They're not going to reduce it down to less than a year, because why should they? Are you deserving of anything less than that? Well, this is up to me. I mean, I can't speak for people who think differently. Some people might think differently than this. Some people think it depends on a case by case basis. Some people think, if it's in the middle of the night or something and there's no other cars around, maybe. But remember, it only takes one. It only takes one. When are you the only person ever on the road? Ever. It only takes one. It only takes one person. Or, better yet, it only takes one wild animal to jump out in front of you in the middle of the night, like a deer. And also, driving that fast in the middle of the night is also dangerous as well, because driving in the dark on the highway, you can't see that well at night. I mean, sure, you can probably do a good 80, 85 on the highway at night. Yeah, especially if you live in like a rural area, I'm sure. But is there any excuse to be driving 120 something on the freeway? No. That's just ridiculous. That's just completely ridiculous. Most of the Pogo Islands is mostly just jungle because it's an equatorial country. It's on the equator in the Indian Ocean. So it's jungle, savanna and whatnot, just savanna lands and semi-open areas outside of the major cities and so forth. So generally speaking, the speed limit, speed maximum would be 70 in most places. In the rural areas, it's like 70. Suburban areas, it's like 65. In urban areas, it's like 55 or 60 and so forth. So basically, it all can just depend, sure. But like I said, it only takes one. It only takes one person to get into an accident with. And you don't survive at that type of speed. It only takes one person. It only takes one. It only takes one person for this to happen. And for the people that act like, well, I can't stand the false equivalencies of, oh, well, the person driving slow in the passing lane is just as bad. Like, well, no, that act is nowhere near as bad as the person driving 150 miles an hour on the freeway. No, I'm sorry, but that's a false equivalency. That's a sloppy, grotesque false equivalency that just completely tries to distract the argument from a whole nother position, that any person who drives at an extreme rate of speed is an idiot and needs to be taken off the road for an extremely long time and deserves to have the book thrown at them for putting people's lives in danger. That's not a victimless crime. That's a crime that actually destroys lives, like I said. Extreme speed is responsible for a majority of car accidents. Extreme speed is responsible for a lot of car accidents. Sure, it can be in connection to other things too, distracted driving and everything, like, put away all distractions, put your fucking phone away, all that shit. Yeah, you know what? Fine, of course, But sure, does speed kill? It depends on the speed. 70, 75, maybe even 80, 85. No, it just depends. But speed in the triple digits? Yeah, that does. That does. And driving that fast should never be allowed anywhere, anytime. I don't care. You might think differently. Okay, that's fine. But guess what? But this is the Pogo Islands. This is Zachary's creation, and this is up to me. I allow people to go 70, 75. You might even get away with it if you're driving maybe 80, 85 in the middle of the night. I might even just say, whatever, just let them go. I don't care. I'm looking for the people that are doing the most ridiculous things in the world. I'm looking for the people that are doing 120, 130 on the freeway and so forth. I'm looking for those types of people. So yeah, when it comes to the most, when it comes to that, when it comes to extreme speed, yeah, the mandatory minimum revocation, in my opinion, should be 1 year. You don't deserve anything less than that. Anything less than that is a slap on the wrist. Okay, I'll give you one. Maybe if you're doing it in the middle of the night and there's no other cars around and you didn't endanger people's lives, I'll say 6 months. I'll give you 6 months. Bare minimum. I'm not giving you any less than that. Anything less than 6 months, it's just a slap on the wrist. I'll go 6 months. Bare minimum. Okay? But generally speaking, I think it should be a year, regardless of the circumstances. Now, If there were a lot more cars around, oh, it'd be 1 year. And I might even be tacking on other charges as well. I might be charging you with all sorts of other things. I might be charging you with all sorts of other different things. Your lane changes, reckless endangerment. I might be booking you for other things as well. So yeah, maybe if traffic was extremely low in the middle of the night or very early in the morning, then maybe 6 months. Maybe. If you catch me on a good day or something, and you have no priors and something like that, maybe. But if there's a lot more cars around, if the traffic is heavy and you're doing it, whole nother ball game. Be a year, 1 year minimum with me. But generally speaking, no, I think it's a year. Like I said, I'm just talking about the best case scenario. Maybe 6 months, I'll give you that. Anything less than that, no. Under no circumstances would I have anything less than 6 months. But generally speaking, yeah, I think it should be a year. Maybe 2 or 3 months for maybe doing 20 over the speed limit, and you're doing like 85 and a 65 or something. Maybe that could be 30 days, 3 months or something like that. Maybe. Something like that. I could do that. I mean, that would make more sense. In that case, that would just be a suspension. But extreme speed of like 100 miles an hour or more, or driving like 40 miles an hour or more over the speed limit, like doing like the equivalent of doing like 90 and a 50 or something like that. Oh, also on the Navy Island as well. You know where that 1 year revocation also applies? When you're doing more than 30 over the limit. So like if you're doing 96 and a 65, or you're doing more than that, yeah, that would also apply. So extreme speed means you're going over 30 above the limit, or you're going 100 miles an hour or more regardless of the limit. I think it should be a year, minimum. Because if you choose to endanger the lives of yourself, your passenger, if you have one, and the lives of everybody around you, then you deserve everything coming your way. A fine, jail, your car being taken away for a year, your license being revoked for a year. And then you might think, well, how would you get your license back? How would you get your license back? Well, you have to wait a year. And if you get a jail sentence and you serve time in jail, which I think is necessary, I think extreme speed, I think depending on how fast, I think once you cross into like, if you're in like the low hundreds, I would say, maybe just give them a hefty fine, take away their license. But once you cross into like 130, 140, 150, that should be mandatory jail time, 100%, no doubt about it. Make it a year, make it a day for every mile over 100, or every mile over like 120 or whatever. Say if the person did 125, put them in jail for like 5 days, I don't, or maybe 1 month, make it 5 months, I don't know. I would make it, I just make it in any way possible. Then when they get out of jail, then the 1 year revocation can begin. Maybe it can begin there. Well, no, technically it begins at the roadside. But yeah, if you're going to jail, then yeah, maybe, yeah, because if you're in jail, you're not going anywhere anyway, so you're not going nowhere anyway. The person's in jail, so, they could get credit to his credit, So, yeah. Well, I think jail is worse than just having a revoked license. Because if you have a revoked license, what do you got then? You can't go anywhere. It's like if you have a revoked license, well, you got to think about that. But that's so cruel to do to someone. No, it's more cruel if you drive that fast and you kill an entire family. I think that's more cruel then. I think it's cruel when people's bodies have been literally turned to mush because of that. I think it's more cruel when there's people that don't even understand how to move over for police officers. I think that's also cruel, and then slamming into them at a high rate of speed. I think that's more cruel. Okay? So again, I'm a leftist. Okay? I am. 100%. But when it comes to actual crimes and offenses that endanger people's lives, Yeah, I'm a tough motherfucker. I don't give a shit. I do. If you endanger the public, if you endanger people's lives unjustifiably for no reason at all, then yeah, that's not a victimless crime. That is something that you need to face the utmost serious consequences. And on the Navy Island, these are the penalties that you will be facing. Because it needs to send a message that if you risk your own life and risk everybody else's life around you, then you're going to pay. And you're going to pay heavily. You're going to pay with not being able to drive for a year, not being able to have a vehicle for a year, having to pay towing and storage fees to get that vehicle out, to pay a license reinstatement fee to get that vehicle out, to go before a judge who's probably not going to show you any mercy. The judges who would be created by me, do you think I'm going to be showing you any mercy? Nope. No. And then, if they think your speed is extreme enough and you put enough people's lives in danger, we might just put you in jail. And that fine that you're going to have to pay, it's going to hit you hard because you deserve it. Because you deserve it. You deserve it and more. There's just no excuse for it. There's just no excuse for that kind of behavior. Because when you're on the road, you're sharing it with everybody. Okay? So if you don't think it's if you don't think about that type of thing, just think about, well, imagine if that was my family, my friend, or something like that. Because the golden rule, you have to think about what you do will affect other people. Okay? So if you don't, you're going to pay heavily. And in my country, you're going to pay heavily. If you commit a hardened crime that destroyed someone's life, like murder, mayhem, robbery, rape, sexual abuse, or if you endanger the public by driving at an extreme rate of speed, drove intoxicated, performing donuts or stunts on the roadway, endangering children in a school zone, endangering road workers in a construction zone by driving at a dangerous rate of speed, then yeah, I'm gonna give that you're gonna get a hefty penalty. I know the things that I say is not popular with a lot of leftists, okay? I understand that. This isn't popular in the RBN circles. This isn't popular in certain instances. And I'm okay with that. Maybe I'm just different. Maybe I'm just different in that regard. But I'm still a leftist at heart. I still believe in left-wing causes. I still believe in socialism, 100%. Just because I have these positions doesn't change anything about my anti-imperialist stances. So, yeah, I believe in getting rid of the bad cops 100%. But when it comes to actual ones that actually do their fucking jobs, yeah, I want them on there, and I want them to actually do it, and there. And in the Pogo Islands, I make a police force that doesn't engage in brutality, doesn't engage in this type of thing, and then that's how we do it. That's how we do it. You endanger the public, you endanger people's lives, you destroy people's lives, there's a price to pay. And I don't think that should be a left versus right issue. I just think that should just be a general issue that I think everybody can agree on. And I know that most people agree on it, but that's about it, That's about it. So, anyway, that wraps up this legal lesson. Thank you to everybody who watched. I really appreciate it. I'll see you all Thursday with my stream, including my next video that I'm going to be doing, that I'm not going to do right now because Steven's in the other room and sleeping. That's probably why I'm so much more calmer than I normally am in my videos, but I have that other side of me, of course. So I'm going to do that. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Drive safe. This is not legal advice. This is a legal creation of mine based on my thoughts and is for entertainment purposes. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one, including my video on Myanmar and the junta and the difference between, you know, the Western backed person and the other stuff. My video on Myanmar, the hypocrisy about Myanmar, and a whole bunch of stuff in the works. Stay tuned, including my stream on Thursday. Look out for it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video, and I'll see you in my next stream, and I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now. Take care. Peace out. Drive safe, and keep fighting. Peace out.